bombarding them.
They launch an all-out assault from the beach and air, and the iceberg is pelted with the full force of the troops' arsenal.
The intention was to put 5 to 10 of our soldiers to climb up on board and board the ship, but under fire or covering fire from the land and from the air. We had a single PKM machine gun on the Alouette.
It's very difficult, if you're on the ground, to try and counter a helicopter gunship firing at you. He's more mobile, he's got you in his sights, you're firing up at him. That's inaccurate, you're going to get hit, there's no question.
In what looked like a desperate move, the PMPF approached the ship on 3 skiffs. The pirates fire wildly, determined not to let the troops near them. Bullets land perilously close to the tiny unarmoured boat. But the PMPF keep speeding forward. Once close to the hull, they are safe from the pirates' fire, but now face the challenge of getting on board. They had planned to do this using ladders they brought with them. From the beach, a South African mercenary has spotted movement on the deck, but that's not the only problem.
Is the ladder not long enough?
But the sea conditions were very rough, and initially we couldn't get the length of the ladder right to hook onto the railings.
Totally unaware that the ladder was too short, a second skiff makes the charge for the iceberg's hull. But the rough waters cause one of the troops to be thrown overboard, exposed to enemy fire. All the troops on the beach can do is fire desperately at the portholes, trying to offer support. The first skiff prepares to make its escape, forcing the second skiff to do the same. Bullets continue to hit the water all around them. All 3 skiffs retreat, but not without loss. One of the PMPF troops has been hit and killed, the first fatality the PMPF have suffered. And they are still no closer to freeing the hostages. On the coast of Somalia, the newly established Puntland Maritime Police Force is doing battle with a pirate force on board the cargo ship Iceberg 1 in a bid to free the 22 hostages on board. To help them, they've called upon legendary helicopter pilot Arthur Walker and a team of South African mercenaries.
We found that the effectiveness, we weren't doing anything dramatic to the pirates. So we decided to bring in a heavier caliber missile.
The Soviet-built B-10 recoilless rifle is a weapon that can certainly penetrate the ship's steel. And although it has a range of over 4,000 meters, its effective accuracy is only 400. It was also missing its sights. Deciding to aim through the breach, the PMPF decided the Iceberg 1 was a big enough target.
Ultimately, they managed to find a B-10 rocket launcher, or recoilless rifle. That's about 100 millimeter caliber, and that managed to make a few holes, through the thick steel of the bridgehead.
At 7 foot long, this anti-tank weapon will have no problem penetrating a cargo ship. Photographs taken later show how one of the shells fired from the B-10 went straight through the thick steel walls of the ship. Finally, the pirates' resolve is broken. Terrified, some of them attempt to flee in their skiffs. But after taking fire from Arthur, one sinks, and the pirates are forced back to the ship.
They hadn't received any supplies of fresh water and food, so they started, feeding the pinch. Also, they were used to getting their daily cut. which is a mild narcotic that they chew. So after 12 days, we basically starved them out. And eventually they decided to succumb. And we exchanged the first 2 hostages who were wounded or very badly in bad health. And we exchanged the first 2 for a bag of sugar and some tea. So we sent a boat in, and they lowered the 2 hostages down the ladder. And we took them back to the shore, back to safety, and then we immediately flew them back to our base where they got full medical treatment that night.
Welcome to freedom.
Thank you.
25-year-old Indian crew member Swapnil Japhad was shot right through his ankle during the attack. He is so relieved, or exhausted, that he doesn't seem to care.
Sorry, man.
Yes.
But we had to do this to get you free.
Yes.
It begins to become clear what conditions were like on board.
Water is, but they no give us.
No water.
What we collect from the rain.
This one bottle give 3 days.
3 days.
Arthur flies them away for medical attention. For them, it's the end of a terrifying ordeal. Leaving the coast, they pass the ship that has been their prison for nearly 1,000 days. The pirates know they can't compete with the 2 recoilless rifles, and they are now ready to surrender. Representatives of the pirates, elders and tribal leaders meet the PMPF on the beach to negotiate.
This is the crazy thing about the piracy in Somalia. The investors actually had communication with the pirates on board, plus the pirates that were in the area, in the nearest town there. And they, in turn, would phone our police commissioner. And so we had a full circle of communication directly with the pirates.
One of the negotiators is father to 2 of the pirates. He pleads with his sons and urges the rest of the pirates to release the remaining hostages. If they agree, they will be allowed to leave without coming under fire. Finally, the negotiations succeed. The pirates will be allowed to return home without being charged. But after holding the Iceberg One for almost 3 years, they will not receive any ransom. Their mission complete, the troops board the Iceberg One and get to see what conditions were like for the hostages.
The hostages were held for 3 years on board, basically in a very large cabin, but completely cramped. They had very limited food. A lot of them were tortured. The chief engineer was badly tortured. They cut off both his ears that were hanging loose down here. They beat him up with a metal pipe and damaged his left leg in particular.
The hostages, free at last, are overcome with emotion.
It was the most amazing thing that after 3 years of confinement, they looked generally in good condition, fair health. And it just goes to show that the mentality of these sailors and their self-discipline, how they managed to preserve themselves and keep themselves in the best condition that they did. Every single hostage, when they touched the ground, they started praying and thanking the Lord, whether they were Muslim or Christian. And it was just the most wonderful experience that all the time that we'd worked there and sweated, it was just so rewarding just to see the faces of those hostages that had been released after 3 years of torture. It made it all worthwhile.
It's now that the PMPF realised that these men were positioned by the pirates in the rooms on the outer perimeter of the ship as human shields.
On the 10th of December, early morning, I was about to pray, and all of a sudden there was a gunshot, and it was really brutal. And all of us were hiding for cover. The bullets were flying. There was so much bombardment. Bullets flying over, we were lying down all over. In fact, we spent 3 years, but the last 13 days was really a war. Initially, we don't know who were coming to save us. We thought they were coming to destroy all of us. And finally, on the 13th day, everything became calm.
This is the end of a brutal ordeal for these men. They were saved by a novice Somali force tackling a problem that has blighted their country for years. And they were guided by battle-hardened South African mercenaries whose actions defied their reputations.